Well, the average person, if they're going out into the wilds to experience nature, and I encourage people to do that because the desert's a phenomenal place.
Yeah.
Take a shovel, a fire extinguisher, and a first aid kit, and water. Don't park on top of dry vegetation. Don't flick your cigarette out the window or anywhere else. Appropriately deaden it in your ashtray or whatever else you have in your car.
Right.
Just be aware of those type of things and what Larry and Jeff said.
And to take it a step further, if you come across, call. I mean, that's sometimes people unintentionally start a fire and they are more scared of anything, so they flee and maybe not report it. Yep. But that delays the process of us getting a response to kind of hit it fast and keep it small. So if people do come across, call and let people know there's something going on.
Yeah, really great advice. Anything else we didn't cover? I'm trying to mitigation strategies we seem to do. We hit community action. We could go back to economic impact. One of the things we didn't discuss just related to economy is like threatened species potentially, right? Like sage grouse in the Martin fire. If that were to go on the endangered list, maybe what does that mean for our mining industry or some of our ranching industry or grazing industries out in that area that could be limited because of that?
It could have some impacts, but in southern Nevada, we already have the desert tortoise is listed, and we have other aviary and aquatic species that are already listed, and they're in small, isolated areas. And I think, Lynn, we were talking about this before, you might be able to talk to it a little bit more, but we have those special species in these areas, and impact from wildfire would be absolutely devastating to that particular species or ecosystem for that matter.
Yeah, and it wouldn't have to be direct burning of that little spot. We have a lot of springs, a lot of ephemeral streams. If you haven't been out to Ash Meadows, check it out. It's beautiful. There's a lot of little springs. And it doesn't have to burn there for those to be devastated. You burn upslope and then you get that runoff and debris flow, and you're going to lose these either endemic, they're only found there, they may not be threatened or endangered, or they could be threatened or endangered species.
Yeah.
Some of our threatened and endangered species are broad spread across the landscape, so a fire in one small particular area might not have a huge impact on that species. But if this rare endangered species is in a little microhabitat and that either directly or indirectly is impacted by fire, they're lost.
Larry, locally, I'm wondering, where can we go? We're not looking at invasive species necessarily here, but we are looking at a lot of additional vegetation because of the wet months. Is there a place you'd recommend that our public can go and really kind of see what it is like post having a really wet season in the desert? And how, as you're saying, how you can see where there's the connection of fuel to fuel.
Well, you know, I don't think anybody that has a rock yard hasn't been battling weeds this whole springtime. I know I have been. That's just a minor example of the crop of grasses that we're getting right now. You drive down the freeway, you can see small light fuels, fine fuels connecting those bushes. It's pretty obvious when you go look. It's not going to be this huge overgrowth that you might think it is. It's just fine grasses that aren't usually there. And it's pretty obvious if you look.
And good point. I have noticed the weeds have been a little bit thicker than
a lot of Roundup.
So
and if you look at some of the satellite products that we have for the entire state, the moisture level this spring has been so high that we're well above 100% increase in overall greenness statewide. So all of the state is greener, significantly greener. It's just a question of the timing of when those monsoonal rains are going to come in, where they're going to hit, how much water they're going to deposit, and what that does to soil moisture, and then where we have dry lightning strikes or man-made fires as to what's going to happen for the fire season.
Thank you for mentioning that again. I wanted to touch more upon that. So if we did have a lot of monsoonal moisture, is it possible that we're not going to have a high fire season, that we might moisture out and then get to the winter and we just kind of recycle at that point?
Well,
is that possible?
It's possible, but remember, our monsoon flows are individual cells. They're not like our winter rains, which cover an entire region and have a slow, steady downfall of rain that pretty uniformly spreads out. So our monsoonal flow, if we have a good monsoonal flow this year, could have a devastating effect as far as flash flood and a lot of water hitting over a short period of time in a very localized area. So what you're going to have across the landscape is a mosaic of wet, dry, wet, dry. And then it's a question of where you're going to have that ignition and what the fuel source is going to be as far as carrying it. At the lower elevations, we don't have the vegetation cover, and so you'd be flashing across that eriogonum, that trumpet plant, from one creosote bush to the next. But if we're up in the upper elevations where there's more fuel and we have trees and they're drying up, then it could be more problematic.
Larry, you mentioned it's a somewhat cloudy day today, but you mentioned we have lightning strikes in the area as we speak. So this is a continued risk of us having lightning in a dry area.
Absolutely. And as monsoons come in, that's one of our biggest fears. We know that storm is coming. We know that rain's coming. But ahead of that rain are the lightning strikes. And we have a pretty standard pattern in southern Nevada. If you're familiar with southern Nevada, southern Las Vegas, it's going to go right up through Good Springs into Sandy Valley, hook around, come behind the Potosi Mountains, go right through the Potosi Valley, then go up through Lovell Canyon, up over the hills into Trout Canyon, and down into Cold Creek, and then out on the test site. That's where our lightning belt is, and you can sit there and watch it on a lightning tracker and watch those strikes hit. We had 4 or 5 strikes today near Cold Creek. So even though it's not a real rainy day today, we are having lightning strikes even as we speak.
And it's that predictable. I didn't know that lightning strikes could be that predictable.
It always goes through my territory for some reason.
It's that storm cloud hanging over you.
Yeah, I think Jeff wills it that way.
Yes.